Hey guys, how's everybody doing? So, spring has finally hit in Wisconsin. Well, spring to us anyway. It's about 52 degrees out. Anybody that lives in the Midwest knows that when you get those kind of temperatures and it's this sunny and nice out, for us that's t-shirt and short weather. So I thought today I'd come out and I'm going to show you guys my Tri-5 collection. I've had a lot of people in the past tell me, I should make videos of the cool stuff I do. Everybody'd like to see it, which makes sense because that's what I do. I watch videos a lot on this old Tri-5 stuff, and I just love it. But I thought I'd give you a tour of everything I got today. So let's start with my parts cars here. So this one doesn't look like much, but I get people stopping all the time, hey, what's with that old Nomad on the trailer? But if you don't know, this is actually a 57 Sedan Delivery. So this is basically the utility Tri-5 of the day. It was actually marketed as a truck, but it's the exact same thing as a car. Basically, it's a two-door station wagon with no side windows. They didn't have a back seat, and they had one-piece liftgate instead of the two. But I just pretty much picked this up as a bare shell to scab some parts off of and everything. So this summer, I'm gonna get to work cutting this one apart, I think. And then over here, little 55 210 4-door I picked up. That's sitting here in Parts Row, ready to get cut up. This is an original 235 straight six Power Glide car. And I was going to kind of put this together, but I think I'm going to use this more for parts for another one I got. But I mean, this thing was, it was pretty original. I've pulled the motor and trans out of it because I was going to put it in a different car I have. But it was a running driving car when I first got it. But it's a pretty good parts car. And here we got another Sedan Delivery, a 56. So what's cool about this is I think this was some type of a fleet vehicle or a government vehicle. So for those of you guys that are into like the window deliveries, if you know what those are, those are about the rarest of the rare. They have special stampings on the VIN tag, on the cowl, or like up here the cowl. So if you look at this one, it does have some special stampings in it, but I have not been able to figure out, what was special about it. Because it's definitely not a window delivery. I think it was just a fleet vehicle, or if the government might have owned it or something like that. And there is another stamping like right next to it. I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if that was some sort of stamping or what, but this one, I hate to do it, but we're probably going to cut this one up too. It's just pretty rough. I pretty much bought this for all the, it had all the interior moldings in it and stuff that are specific to Sedan Delivery. That's an old 55 Bel Air 4-door wagon. That's an original V8 car. Got the original 265 in it still. You can see there's some few good parts left on here. I've scabbed a lot of them off already. But yeah, it's got the original 265. This is also a Power Glide car. And for some reason, what I've found, that's actually a 2-barrel, but that 2-barrel air cleaner is technically correct for 56, but I think in late 55 they switched from the 55 2-barrel air cleaner to the 56 air cleaner. Because and unless somebody swapped it a long time ago. But hopefully this summer I'm going to get to work getting this whole row parted out here. They could be done, but as you'll see, I've got better ones in the shop to work on. Okay, now this is a 57 Bel Air 2-door sedan. When I first got this car, I actually was going to part this out also. I only paid $300 for this thing, and it had a Borg Warner Super T10 in it, so I didn't do too bad on it. But actually, when I got to looking at it, it is fairly solid. I know you guys might be thinking, that thing looks like it should be crushed, but really it's pretty, it's not too bad. I have a couple of full floors, brand new ones, that I think I'm just going to throw a floor in it. And I've parted out a few 57 two-door sedans that I pretty much have enough parts really to put this thing together. You know, what I like to do is I like to put cars together with stuff that I have. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I think it's just cool to see them pretty much just get put together like a complete car again. So I think that's what we're gonna do. Dylan, my oldest boy, I mean, he's only 7, but I'm really trying to get the kids into these old 55, 67 Chevys, just because I don't think there's enough kids that are into it right now, and I hate to think what's going to happen to them someday. So I'm really hoping that they decide that they do like them and hopefully get into them. So I really want to put this car together for Dylan. I've got a two-door hardtop for Logan, my middle kid, and Chloe, we haven't really decided what she'll get yet. But let's take a walk into the shops and I'll show you what we have in there. Alright, so we're up in the top garage. This is just the small garage. But this is where I keep my 55. This is my very first Tri-5. Don't mind the messy garage. I got a lot of cleaning to do this spring too. But so I got this car when I was 18. Probably should have never built it. But I was 18, didn't have much money. I had a 66 Impala. That was a running, driving car. And when I was about, I'd say probably 12, my uncle started building a 55 hardtop out in Washington State. So he lived a long ways away, but I'd get to call him every once in a while, and he'd send me pictures in the mail, before email and stuff like that, of him working on this old 55 hardtop. And when he finally got it done, it took him, I think, probably 2 or 3 years maybe. I just remember he drove it all the way here from Washington State to Wisconsin, and I remember him pulling in and seeing it out the window, and I knew right then and there I had to have one. So, like I said, when I was 18, I got this car. The roof was caved in. The roof was pushed down onto the steering wheel was pushed into the seat. It needed floors, it needed trunk pans, it needed a whole front clip. So I actually got 2 cars at the same time. I traded my 66 Impala for them. And this car, I mean, it was complete. It had the seats, you know, all the really hard stuff to find was there. I had all 2 sets of Bel Air trim because they were both Bel Air cars. So I thought I was going to make 1 car out of 2. Well, I learned real quick that it was going to take a lot more than that. So it literally took me 9 or 10 years to get this car running and driving. Back then I was making minimum wage. I'd eat ramen noodles all week so I could buy car parts. But I did finally get it done. And that's what led me to get all these other cars. I think I have 14 Tri-5s right now. But here, I'll show it to you. It's pretty basic. It's pretty dark in here, but that's just a stock 350. I had originally had a turbo 350 in it, but it started slipping, so I ended up putting a 700 R4 in it. So it's pretty decent going down the highway with the overdrive and stuff. But I did everything on this car myself. Paint, the bodywork, welding, the interior. It's got a stock interior in it from Cars Incorporated. And I've always been a sucker for all the accessories, so it's got the electronic eye and the traffic light viewer. And that's not the correct compass, but it is a Dinsmore compass. The correct one, I mean, they're almost identical to that. It was black, and the dial looked a little bit different, but I've just always liked the compasses. So I've got about 3,000 miles on this. I think this summer I'm going to put new tires on it because they're old original tires, and I don't really like driving around on those. And the kids do like riding in it, but I don't have any seat belts or anything, so I think I'm going to put seat belts in it and try to get the kids taking some car shows and cruise nights. We have a lot of those around here, so I'm going to try to get them into it that way. So moving over here, is the latest project I've been working on. So this is a 56 Bel Air two-door hardtop. I've had this one for I think like 6 years now. So this is the one I've been really working on. I had it on the rotisserie, and I just got it off last summer. So I had to do a bunch of floor work to it. I actually had bought a full, complete floor pan for it. But when I got to looking at it, you know, I had other, you know, pans and stuff like that here, and I really couldn't justify cutting the whole floor out when I knew I had stuff here to fix it. It probably would have been faster, but now I have another complete floor pan I can put in something else. So we're going to go that route. But this is going to be Logan's car. The reason being in that is shortly after he was born, I got this car, and he was born with heart defects and stuff like that, and I just told myself that I was going to build it for him for when he's 16. He can drive this, and Dylan will get the 57 out there. But this car, I've got it's a 5.3. I have an old Tahoe with Phytec fuel injection. This has got the 4L60 in it. Gonna have air conditioning, power windows, power seats, all that. So this I'm hoping to actually hopefully get buttoned up this year. So I'm going to be putting out a lot more videos, I think, everything I do to these cars this summer, so everybody can see that. But this last summer I got the firewall painted and stuff because I don't want to have to pull the engine and trans back out. And really I have everything else to finish this car. I basically just have to get the work done. And sometimes with kids that can be a chore, but we're going to make it happen this year. So over here I got a 55 hardtop. I don't mind the mess, it's kind of a catch-all right now. I brought this one back from Washington State. That same uncle that I was telling you about that had the 55 hardtop when I was a kid, he's still into Tri-5s, he has a bunch of them too, but I always wanted a 55 hardtop because, like I said, that's what he originally had and finished and brought back to Wisconsin here. So he'd actually bought two at the same time. He doesn't have the old original one anymore, but he did get another one, and then he bought this one, and he decided he wasn't going to keep them both, so I bought this one from him. We brought it back from Washington State. It's actually a really solid old hardtop. I mean, if you look at the rockers and the quarter panels, I mean, they're pretty good shape. Does need a little bit of floor work. So, you know, so we cut it out for a 4-speed. The pans are, you know, bad like usual, but hopefully I'll get to this car eventually. Alright, let's head back to the back shop. This is where the big mess is. This is the kind of storage area where I got a lot of cars. So let's head back there now. Okay, now we're in the back shop. So this shop is a 35 by 40 foot shop, so it's pretty big. Plus the top garage is a 3.5 car garage. So when we bought this place, it was 7 years ago. 7 years ago in February. When we moved in, I had my 55 sedan, the gray and white one I just showed you. I had the 55 hardtop that's also up there. And I have also a 39 Chevy that's not here right now, but I still own it. So I thought, I am never going to fill this garage up. I'm going to have plenty of room. Well, the other bad thing is when you have room, you find things to put in that empty space. So I'm going to show you what's in here, and there's barely any room to walk. So that's going to be another project this spring, is try to get this garage usable. So right in front of me, I'm going to spin the camera around. This is probably about the rarest car I have right now. So this is a 56 Chevy window delivery. Now, if you don't know what that is, if you're not that big into Tri-5s, or even if you are, you still may have never heard of it. Okay, this looks like a regular two-door station wagon, which it is. But the government in the 50s, they wanted a station wagon. Well, they wanted a sedan delivery. And like I told you earlier, a sedan delivery is the same thing as a two-door wagon, but they don't have side windows, they They don't have a bad back seat. They just have a load floor, okay? Like a regular sedan. It's basically, there's 2 stands welded to the floor with plywood over it. And they have a one-piece lift gate instead of the clamshell design where you have a small upper and a small lower. However, the government, they wanted that car, but they also wanted side windows. So the government did make them for them, but they weren't available to the general public. But everybody that sees these cars a lot, they'll say, oh, they think it's a handyman or a regular 2-door wagon. And when they try to tell them it's not, they don't believe you. So there's a myth that in 57 there was 92 of them. Well, there's been a lot more than that have been found. Well, I don't know if there's more than 92, but with the amount that have been found, the likelihood of it being 92 is low, because chances are not that many survived if there was only 92. 56, we've never heard any numbers on that, at least I haven't. But I only know of probably less than 10 56 window deliveries. I have one. My uncle out in Washington has one. And I've seen a few others here and there. But this one I really want to get going this summer. I'm just going to put I got a small block over here I'll show you that I've been putting together for it. I'm going to put Phytech throttle body fuel injection on it. Just something to haul it down the road. It's not going to be anything special, but it's pretty solid. I started doing the floor pan on this side. That side's already done. The rest of this, all back here, is completely solid. It came with all the hard parts. Up in the back corners of the roof, there are plastic moldings that adapt the regular station wagon trim to the Sedan Delivery trim up top that covers the liftgate hinges and stuff. And those are like hen's teeth to find them. Because like I say, they were plastic, and not very much stuff was made out of plastic back in the 50s. For cars anyway. Other than, heavy bakelite and like emblems and stuff like that for the, like a Bel Air crests and stuff like that on like a 55. But these are like a thin plastic. But I do have those, luckily. Like I said, this car is actually a race car. You can, on the back, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but it says in tow. So I think what happened was, after the government was done with this, they sold them as surplus. And, I'm assuming stuff didn't last that long. Back then, the government probably didn't keep stuff around. So it was probably used for a few years in the government, and they sold it. Somebody bought it, made it a race car, and then it sat around for a long time. That's why it's in such good shape. I mean, because usually, everything's rotten on these. But it's all pretty solid. The only thing I really had to replace was the two front floor pans. And it's kind of dark in here. But it's all really solid. Even the stands for the floors. That's the 2 stands I was telling you about. So it'll have plywood, just like a regular wagon. But instead of a seat, there's another piece of plywood that goes all the way up to the back seats. And they did have bucket seats. Which a lot of guys will tell you, Tri-5's never had bucket seats. Not true. Sedan Delivery's had bucket seats, that's it. I've actually got a couple of pairs of those, so there's a pair up there. But so that's the one thing this car didn't have. It didn't have any interior in it, but I have the seats for it, so I have pretty much everything to put that car together. This car was actually, the dash was all cut up. Somebody had, being a race car, this whole dash was cut out. The hole where the ignition switch and windshield wipers and stuff, those were all cut out because they had small gauges in them. So I had a spare dash around here, so I cut the old center section from right next to the seam there all the way over to next to the radio and replaced that already. Okay, this next car I had actually bought for a parts car. It's a 56 Bel Air 4-door sedan, and
You know, handful of years back, four-doors were parts cars. I hate to say it, but everybody said that. Today, not so much. Four-doors are super popular. When I bought this car, I got it out of Chicago. I only paid $500 for it. So you hear guys say all the time, oh, those cars aren't out there. They are still out there. They're getting a little harder to find, but they're out there. So this car was this guy's daily driver. He lived in a suburb of Chicago. Back in the 80s, I think he said, he was driving, he put something in the engine to stop a tick or something like that. Short story, it locked the engine up, it blew up. It's original 235 with a 3-speed car. When I talked to him, you know, his main concerns were, oh, you know, I dented the oil pan when I pulled the engine out. Basically selling it to me like it's a used car, not a classic car. So I bought it from him. I brought it home. I started looking at it. And I decided, you know what? I can't part this car out. It has no rust at all. Well, I shouldn't say that. I think there's a couple little maybe dime-sized holes in the rockers. Other than that, the trunk is super solid. The tail pan's super solid. Original paint. Somebody did do a repaint on the fenders back in, you know, whenever, and they didn't quite match. So I had another couple pair of fenders here. Well, I shouldn't say it didn't have any rust. It did have rust above the headlight caps. So I have another set of nice fenders here that I redid, but I haven't quite decided what I want to do, because the fenders, you know, obviously I have them on black epoxy primer right now. The rest of the car, as you can see, super nice Harbor Blue paint yet. I mean, it's one of those cars that, you know, patina is so popular anymore that I really want to just drive it the way it is, but I don't know how I can get the fenders to match. I thought maybe I could, you know, just get some blue poly and just put the base on so it's kind of flat like the rest of the car. But anyway, what I did was I went out, got a good running 235, had the flywheel turn, put a new clutch in it, rebuilt the brakes. I'm going to put a different gas tank in it because it does have some sediment in it, but the 235 in this thing just purrs like a kitten now, but same thing, all original dash. I did have a chrome glove box door that I stuck on it, but I'll probably put the factory one back on, but this car's never been touched. I mean, it did have the block off plate, and I stuck a factory working push button radio, and I have a Wonder Bar too I might stick in it, but really I think with this car what I'd like to do is put a reproduction interior in it. Well, I guess that's right, it doesn't need the driver's floor pan. That was the only one it needed. So the floor supports and everything are all good though, but I would really like to just clean this car up and drive it as is. I mean, watch how these doors, I mean, you barely push them, and this car is that solid. It's probably the most solid car I have. So I just couldn't get myself to part it out. Do a walk around over here. And I got that. The neighbor guy behind me actually has a 55 Wagon. So we've been horse trading some parts back and forth, and he had this, one of the original visors, and he wasn't going to use it, so I traded him some parts for it because I thought it would look good on this car. I wish the garage was a little cleaner so I could show you guys this better. So that is a 57 210 two-door sedan. So I guess I did actually have this car when we bought this house. This car, and I have a 57 Sedan Delivery over in the corner. I can kind of show you. Well, not really, it's buried, but I did have those two cars also. But I had two storage units that I was paying on for years because my house in town, I just didn't have enough room for them. And that was part of the reason we bought this place, because I wanted more room for this kind of stuff, and I wanted to bring them home and stop paying for the storage units. This one, I think I'm actually probably going to make one car out of the two parts, or the parts off this one for that 57 Bel Air I got outside, and I'm probably going to sell the rest. Make some room for one. For two, I think I can make a nice Bel Air, because I have an extra set of Bel Air trim and all that kind of stuff, Bel Air dash trim, lots of it. So I'm going to make the one out of the two. My wife had originally bought this when I first met her. We bought this, we were going to build it for her, but we just never got that far. Life got in the way, and now here it sits. So I think that's the plan. We're just going to... I'm going to take like the inner fenders, the front clip, stuff like that off of this. That hood's off of another 57 I had parted out. So that's got the original, that's the original V8 hood. So I'm going to use that on that car. Probably sell the rest, or part it out, one of the two. But it is a pretty decent rolling shell. Somebody redone all the floors and everything already. So whoever gets this car ends up with it, doesn't have to worry about that. That's the big thing on these old Tri-5s is the floors. Let's see. I wish I could show you better. But this car actually has a small block 350 in it and a turbo 350. And some, I think it's got a Dana rear end in it. So I have to look at that too and see, if that's something I want to use in something or part out. Most of my Tri-5s all have stock rear ends. That's what I like to put on them. My 56 hardtop up top, that's got a 411 posi in it, factory rear end. So I don't know. We'll see what I can get. That car, I didn't realize it, but when I pulled it apart, I realized that car was a race car. And it didn't have a P case. Posi rear ends in 55 through 64 if they're Posi, with the exception of 57. 57 early Posis had a big X on them, if I remember right. But anything after that, they have a big P for a Posi. Well, the rear end in that 56 hardtop, it wasn't a P case. But I blew the rear end up in my gray and white 55 one day, and I was just pulling rear ends apart to find something to stuff in it for now, because that's also got a 411 posi in it, but it broke some teeth on it. But I pulled it apart, and lo and behold, it's got a 488 posi. But so it's nothing you can use on the street. But posi units are getting really expensive for these cars. So if you got one, you got a few bucks sitting there. Okay, so this next car, you can't really see it. This back row of cars is going to be hard to show you. But what this is, it is a 56 150 utility sedan. And what that means is basically it was a salesman's car. It was kind of along the same lines as the Sedan Deliveries, as the fact that they didn't have a back seat. They also had stanchions welded to the floor that right behind the in the back seat area, there was actually just a load floor back there. So, if a salesman was going around showing his whatever he was selling, you just fold the seat forward and you just threw them back there on a platform. So these cars, the back windows were stationary, meaning they didn't roll down or anything. That's the easy way to tell. I mean, if you don't know how to decode the trim tag, which is right here on the firewall, or the top of the cowl, I should say. So on these cars, I don't know if you can see in there, but right below the rear quarter windows, there's a bunch of oval-shaped cutouts all along the trim after you take the side panels off. That's how you know you had a utility sedan. The only utility sedans had those, because there's no window regulator or anything in there. There's just a seal that holds a piece of flat glass in place. But I've picked up parts for this every once in a while, or here and there. This car came from northern Wisconsin. I went way up there, picked it up, brought it home. I think I paid like $700 for this car, but I got right around $2,000 worth of brand new sheet metal with it, because the guy was going to build it. That's how I got a lot of these cars. Projects that guys gave up on. So they buy stuff and just off it because they wanted to get rid of it, or their wives didn't want them to have it or whatever. But I've got quite a few of them that way. So that's I tend to buy projects like that because they always come with stuff, and I always have somewhere to use them. I've gotten, I couldn't tell you how many individual floor pans, because that's always the first thing everybody buys, is they buy, the front, left, and right floor pans. Usually the tail pan, because Tri-5 tail pans constantly rot out. I mean, it's rare to find one that's not bad. And trunk pieces. I've gotten so many of those, but with these cars when I buy them, that I do eventually use them. That's why I said on that 56 hardtop I got up top, I couldn't justify cutting the whole floor out when I already had sheet metal here that I could use to fix it. So it took a little longer, but I got the job done. Okay, this car. This is a 56 210 two-door sedan. And you want to talk about a car that has never been touched. This thing is about as original as it comes. I don't think you can see it in there, but it's an original 235 Power Glide car. But this car had never been taken apart. I did pull the radio out of it. I think that's the radio that I have in this 56 Bel Air behind me now. But if I can get in here and show you the dash, this is probably the most original car I have ever had, other than this 55 or this 56 four-door behind me. But if you look at this dash, I mean the whole interior, everything. So, well, I shouldn't say it's most original because this 56 four-door I have and this car, both of these cars were untouched. This car is just obviously in a lot worse shape. So I wish this car had been in good a shape as the four-door. But here's the cool part. So the story I got from this car, if you notice, you see that turn signal lever? It goes down and under the column. And you'll notice the horn ring is cut in half. So the guy I got it from was actually the second owner. Well, the story goes that the original owner of this car didn't have a left arm, so he had to run everything with his right arm. Meaning he had to be able to reach through the steering wheel to run the turn signal lever, and obviously it had to be in automatic. Well, I guess it really wouldn't have to have had. It just would have been a lot more work for him. But from what I was told, somebody at GM, I don't know if it was maybe the dealership, they, modified the horn ring and they made that special turn signal lever so you could operate the turn signals with your right hand instead of your left. Obviously everything would be backwards from what you would think, so it takes some getting used to. But I think I'm going to part this car out because this car is really, it's all there, but the rear spring hangers are about falling off it. It needs all the floors, it needs lower quarters, it needs lower inner quarters. I mean, it could be fixed, but I think I might use some parts for it on this 56 150 behind me. I think I might try to make one car out of the two, sell the rest. So I'd like to keep them all, but you know how that goes. I'd never finish all those projects in my lifetime. Maybe my kids, if they like them, we'll see. So this car here is a 55 210 two-door station wagon. Now this car would actually have a back seat. It would have or I should say it does have a back seat. It does have the two-piece tailgate and liftgate, so one goes up, one goes down. The really cool thing about this car that I think is from the factory it had power windows and power seats, which you don't see all that often. At least not on a 210. You would think it'd be on a Bel Air, but this actually has front and rear side windows that roll down, and it's got all the factory. They all work. All the regulators are there, all the window motors, and everything's all there. It all works. I tested it out. So I've kind of been coming up with parts for this here and there too. I can't decide when I always say I want to build this for a family car because there's 5 of us, but how many family cars can one person have? But that's why I have a hard time getting rid of everything, because everything to me is just so cool. So I'm gonna decide what I'm gonna do with this one, but you can tell there's parts. I just have parts everywhere. And the very last car, and I wish you could see it, but you really can't. Back in that corner, you can kind of see what it is. It is a 57 Sedan Delivery. So that was the second Tri-5 Chevy I owned. After I got my 55 done, I found this over in Milwaukee, and I bought it and put it in the storage unit, and just never got a chance to really work on it. So now it's piled in the back corner. So I don't know. You know how it goes. I'm gonna get it out, and I'm gonna clean this garage this summer. No, I don't come out here in the wintertime because I don't have heat out here. So once it finally starts getting cold, I close the garage up, and that's where it stops there till spring. So now, like I said, it's starting to get warm here, So I'm going to start getting busy on this stuff as long as it doesn't get cold again. But here's one other thing I was just going to show you.
So here's the engine I've been building for that window delivery. Let's see. It's a basic small block 350. It's actually a 355. It's bored 30 over, but Edelbrock heads. So that's going to be, hopefully, I got to order push rods for it. You got to measure for them, get them all on, get the intake put on, and get that throttle body put on there. I'm going to start bolting it on. So hopefully it'll be a good runner. Actually, this engine I built,
20 years ago. It's all brand new. I bought it and it was in my, or I should say I built it, and it was in my 55, my gray and white one, the very first car I showed you up there. I had it bored out, new pistons, new cam, 1010 crank. I had iron heads on it, and I worked my butt off to finish my 55 because I wanted to take it to the local car show here. I got it done about 2 or 3 weeks before the show, and it started backfiring through the carb. Well, what happened was, and I don't know why this happened, I think the push rod guides were wallered out, but when I had the heads gone through, either nobody noticed or it did it afterwards, the side of the rocker actually wore a notch right into the side of the rocker stem. So the rocker fell off the valve stem tip and bent push rods and everything else. So I fixed that. I didn't see the cut in the stem, or the push rod stud, the rocker stud. Fixed it, took it around the block, did the same thing. So I got irritated because I wanted to take that car to the show. It was painted, interior's done, everything. I bought a crate motor and put in it and called it done. Shoved that in the corner for the last 20 years. Finally, last summer, I thought, you know what? I'm going to do something with it. I ordered a set of Edelbrock heads, bolted them on, cleaned it up, painted it, checked the cylinders, make sure they weren't rusty or anything, sitting around, they were good. So that's going to go in this wagon. So hopefully it still runs good. Okay, we are down to the last car. Now this one is the most recent car I got, and I can't believe I got it. So I don't know if you've seen this in the background when I've been walking around taking these videos, but I never thought I would own one of these because, like I told you, a lot of these cars I paid $500, $700, $300. I tend to buy cars like that are really rough and work on them because, for me, I can't justify spending, $15,000, $16,000, $17,000 on a decent car that's still going to be worked on the way the prices are these days. So I tend to buy cheap stuff, I guess you'd say. I scour for it, but it's out there, so keep looking. But anyway,
this fall, I found this on Craigslist. It's a 57 convertible. And I thought it was a scam. I was actually out in Las Vegas. Me and Jenny, my wife, were out there for like a long weekend, just get away for a change. And getting ready to go to bed, I'm looking at Craigslist one night. And here is this 57 convertible on Craigslist for $1,000. Now granted, it's a rolling shell. I mean, I stuck that trim and that cluster on it, but it was a rolling shell. It did have, it's got the top bows and everything. They're all good. The header's rusted, but I do have a new one of those. That's a convertible door. I actually have another convertible door here that I had from trading for somebody. That's a hardtop door. But it was, for the most part, a pretty solid shell, really. But anyways, going back to the story, I emailed the guy, and I thought it was a scam. So I emailed the guy and asked him if he still had it. I said, yeah, I still got it. $1,000, it's yours. I said, I'll take it. I'll be there. I can come next Saturday. And like I said, I think this was Monday because we were still in Las Vegas. He says, okay, no problem. I'll hold it for you.
I thought, yeah, right. You know, I was just waiting for the email that said, okay, that's fine, but you know, you got to pay up front, PayPal me this money, and you know, the car's yours. So I was really waiting for that. And he comes back and says, no problem. Nope, I'll hold it Saturday. Just pay me when you get here. So I said, okay, well, I'll call you towards the end of the week. And he said, okay, no problem. So I kind of forgot about it. I got home. And then I got an email and asked me if I was still interested in the car. I said, well, yeah. He goes, well, can you give me a call? I said, sure. So I call the guy. Seems pretty on the up and up. So I'm still kind of thinking, this has got to be a scam. When's the last time you've seen a convertible for $1,000 in any kind of condition, let alone having the top bows? So I tell him, yep, I'm still planning to come Saturday morning. He says, okay. So I asked him, I said, I tell you what. I said, can you send me a couple other pictures like the cowl tag and stuff like that? Because I'm going off of 2 pictures I saw on Craigslist. I thought, well, this should tell the story. Because if he can give me the pictures that I'm asking for, at least on all the cars, he actually has the car. So sure enough, a couple minutes later, he texts me the pictures. I think, okay, sounds right. Load up Saturday morning, get down there, south side of Chicago. That was the other thing I was kind of worried about. So I get down there, and it's a big brick industrial building. And there's the car. Open the door, start checking it out. The VIN matches the title, everything. Wow, this is really. So he tells me he had bought this car as a project for him and his son, but his son's now moved away to college, has no interest in the car. The building it's in, he actually owns and had just sold, and he was building a brand new house in North Carolina. He put $1,000 on it just because he wanted it gone. He knew $1,000 would be, it'd go, you know, like that. Luckily, I just happened to see it like right when he posted it, I guess. And he kept his word. I mean, I handed him $1,000. He says, now I know it's worth more. He goes, I couldn't tell you how many people have messaged me, but I told them I had it sold. It's already spoken for. And then he says, yeah, there's an engine in it, just sitting in it, and there was like a ratchet strap from frame to frame with the back of the trans just sitting on it. So it's just sitting in there. He goes, I don't know what it is. He goes, it's some old motor and trans. Well, check this out. I also got this with it. Free Muncie 4-speed, so can't beat that. I got to check the numbers on it and see what it actually is yet, but it is actual a Muncie 4-speed. So a 57 convertible with the bows, with a Muncie for $1,000. So I was super happy for that. So I couldn't ask for much more. All right, guys, so that's my little tour of my collection of junk. I call it that, but my kids call that Daddy's Rusty Cars is what they usually say. But like and follow this channel, because my plan is this summer is I am going to be doing a lot of videos. So anything I work on, I'm going to show you how-to videos, show you what I do to fix stuff. You know, it might not be the same as everybody else, but if you're like me, I like seeing this old stuff. I like watching the videos of the old stuff. I like seeing projects, and I have plenty of them. So like and subscribe, and I'll be back with you with more videos. Have a good one, guys.